Howdy all, welcome to Black's Lives. I think it's time we play a little 7 Days to Die. Alright. I'm still out here collecting supplies for the old garden. I'm never going to finish that thing, it feels like. But, yeah. That's what I'm probably going to be doing today. But we did have our Wednesday night D&D, which used to be our Tuesday night D&D. So I do have some D&D to talk about. Oh man, I was going to look up something. I didn't look it up. But, yeah, I don't know about this guy sometimes. So last week when we played, we wound up in this house, and he didn't draw it on the grid that we do our combat on. He just said we were inside the house, and he has a very warped sense of distance when it comes to buildings, apparently, which we'll play into this week's game. And so he's like, you're in a tiny one-room farmhouse. That's apparently where we decided to sleep. I mean, that is where we decided to sleep. I just didn't know it was a tiny one-room farmhouse until the fight started. And so we're all in the same room, and it was over 70 feet across. I don't think he realizes how far 70 feet is, because house I'm in at the moment, sitting right here, is like 40 feet across. It's a pretty large house. And, I mean, it's 3 stories tall, and it's like, 25, 30 feet, the other 25 feet, I think, the other way. But it's about 40 feet from one wall all the way across to the one outside wall to the other outside wall. And he's like, this tiny one-room farmhouse is 70 feet. Like, really? That's not the problem I had with it. Basically, he wanted to be 70 feet because he wanted to move his guys out of melee range of anybody but his character. And, see, if it was just his character that was the issue, it would be one thing. But it's not just his character that drives me crazy. And so, during the combat, he said another person came in, only there's nothing drawn on the map to indicate where walls are, windows are, doors are, anything like that. So they just magically appeared standing next to my character, who is usually the #1 person for him to attack. If we're in combat and all people are equidistant from the bad guys, most of the time it heads straight for my guy. And although that wasn't the case this last week, I need a shovel. I need to go back to my house here and see if I've got a shovel. And so, it was really irritating, and stuff moves around, and he'll say one thing, and then when you go to react to it, he'll do something else. I told the story about, I had my thief, because I played 2 characters because they wanted 4 characters, and I was more familiar than the other guy who was playing with D&D, and there's only 3 of us playing, so the DM controls the character, but he's also got a DM, and then I control 2 characters because I'm more familiar with it than the guy who's never played before. I don't have a shovel. This is terrible. I desperately am in need of a shovel. What does it take to make a shovel? I thought I had a steel shovel still. Oh, it is. It's right there. I'm just blind. Never mind. And I have enough to make an iron shovel, so I'll go ahead and start on that. I didn't think I had that much iron on me. I thought I looked and I only had 5. Oh, and then I've got this 30 down here because they didn't stack. That's good. That's good. You know, got what I need, I guess. So, I have my thief and I want to sneak into this house, and I set off an alarm, and so guards start coming, but I'm inside the house and they're outside the house, and I went in through a window, and so they have to come in through locked doors, and so they don't see me because I'm stealthed out of their eyesight, and I sneak upstairs, and they come in and go straight to the room I'm in, basically. And not only that, but somehow they could see my character who was up the stairs, who was across the room, up the stairs, down a hallway, and into another room. And they went straight to that room. So there was a desk, and so I asked, what the desk looked like, and he tells me there's two drawers in the desk, and they're both locked. And so I'm like, all right, I'll do the one on the right. And then he's like, well, the guard is pounding on the door. I'm like, well, I will quickly do the one on the right. He's like, well, there's 3 drawers. One on the left, one on the right, one in the middle. I'm like, okay, so now there's a middle one. Well, then I'll do the middle one, whatever. And he's like, well, the middle one's not locked, and there's nothing in there but blank sheets of paper. Makes me want to just slap him, honestly. Like, seriously, dude? Do you think my rogue would have chosen... I was trying not to kill the guards, so I didn't want to fight them. But I did want to know what this woman was hiding. And he fights it tooth and nail, I tell ya. It's like, yeah, your rogue has got abilities to do stealthy things and break into places and steal things, but I'm never going to allow that to happen. And, which will play into our next story here. So this week, or at the end of last week, oh dude, am I getting sand? I don't want sand, I want dirt. And, so last week, we found a note that none of us could read, and I forget exactly how we thought Gundren, who's this dude we know, would know how to read it, but somehow I think he told us that Gundren, he just told us. And so we went to speak to him to have him decode this message we got off of these people who tried to kill us. And there's this guy named Sildar, and or Sildar, or whatever his name is, he's kind of makes me laugh, and so not my DM's portrayal of him. Well, I mean, that's part of it. Just how incompetent he has come across to me, and not just the DM. And so, like, he was hired as a bodyguard, and he's the first person you rescue in the game when you start playing Mines of Philandrin, and or Lost Mines of Philandrin. That's something like that. And so I was like, oh, okay. So this dude was hired to be a bodyguard, but got immediately captured by goblins, and the guy he's supposed to be protecting gets drug off by the goblins and taken to another place. And then we went to rescue him. The bad guy threw him over a 10-foot tall cliff, and he took enough damage to go unconscious from that. And so now I'm thinking, well, this dude is weak. So not only is he incompetent, but he's weak. And then when we made it to the first town, he was, he went with us, and so he said he was going to gather information for us, and so we should go off and look around the town, and then give him time to find the information. So we went around town and we asked people questions, and we got our own information. And so when we came back, every piece of information he gave us, we had already heard. And so now, not only is he incompetent and weak, but he's useless on top of that. And so we don't really have much to do with him because he never seems to do anything useful. And so we joked about how we were trying to avoid the end because we didn't want to have another long conversation with this dude because I don't know, our DM thinks he likes how the guy has long conversations with us, even though he's completely useless. And so at the end of our conversation with the other guy, Sildar shows up, and so I'm like, oh, my characters are gonna jump out the window, ha ha ha, just kidding. And so when we started this week, he's like, so your characters jumped out the window, what are the rest of us doing? I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, isn't that how you ended last week? You jumped out the window? I'm like, no, I told you I was joking. I really wish you'd stop taking the things that I joke as what my characters are doing. And he's like, well, you said it, man. I'm like, yeah, but I didn't mean it, and when I say I'm just kidding at the end of it, that means I'm not seriously having my characters jump out the window. So it kind of annoys me to start the day off with, so that's not a good way to start off your day. I was already kind of irritated because instead of getting ready before the session started, he waited until, once again, it was time to start the session, and we basically sat around for close to 30 minutes while he got stuff together. And I know he wasn't doing anything for about 2.5 hours before we started, because he was sending me messages about just random junk, and how he was ready to do comic book night, which is where we discuss the weekly comics. See, he could have been totally getting ready while we were talking about comics, but no, instead he put on his headset and laid on his bed. I know because he told me I had to look stuff up because he was laying on his bed and not at his computer. So why wasn't he getting stuff ready then when we were chatting about that other stuff? Anyways, so then we have to talk to Sildar, and we're like, yeah, we don't really want to talk to this guy. And so he's like, yeah, but this is an important man. I'm like, no, he's not important to us, but he's a member of the Lords of something, and so we're like, yeah, we don't really want to talk to him, so we started making fun of him, trying to get his character to get mad and leave. And so we talked about how he never gave us any information, and he's like, but I'm connected to all these people, and I can get you I'm like, yeah, my character turns to him and says, well, I'm a member of the Harpers, so I'm sure our spy network is better than your spy network. And he's like, well, what if you need swords? And then my other character is like, yeah, but I'm a member of the Order of Iron Gauntlets or something, which are a military branch. You're a political branch. We're not in politics. So move along, dude. And then, we found this secret map. It's supposed to be a secret map, and we didn't tell this dwarf about it. And so for some reason, he's adamant that we tell this dwarf about it. So every place we go for information, he keeps saying, the dwarf probably knows about that. The dwarf probably knows about that. The dwarf probably knows about that. And we're like, okay, well, why can't we talk to the woman we know who is proficient in collecting information? Maybe she knows about it. And he's like, so we have a conversation with her, and she has to, it's going to be a while for her to get information like that. She doesn't know anything about it. She doesn't know where to look it up or anything like that, but she can send to some of the people she knows, and it'll be a few weeks before she gets the information back. And we're like, okay, fine. And he's like, and you guys, you won't be able to find this place, he tells us, because the map isn't so much a map as a vague description of something that exists. Well, that makes it not a map. Like, it just says somewhere in this location on the continent is a thing. So it'd be like, I want to go to Oklahoma City, so somewhere in the state of Oklahoma, doesn't tell me where Oklahoma is, somewhere in the state of Oklahoma is Oklahoma City, I'm assuming. And that's it. It's not even a map. It just says like words like that. Um, and I swear I wrote down notes. And last week he told us one thing, and this week he told us more information about it. And I updated my notes with the new information, and then he completely changed what it said after having told us during the session what it was about. And so he was going on and on about the magic forge that we had come across in Wave Echo Cave, and how that one was used to make magic items, and this other place was used to make magic weapons. And so that might be a reason why we want to go there, because they make magic weapons. And so like, okay, well that's cool. And then we get to this week, and he tells us that 4 legendary magic weapons were made at the forge, and some other information about it. And then he wants to make sure we understand, I guess, what the map says. And I'm like, well, can't we just find this place on our own? Like, isn't it a map? Why do we need to talk to this dwarf? And he's like, no, it's super vague and stuff. And I'm like, oh, all right. Well, then I guess we'll have to go talk to this dwarf. And we go talk to the dwarf. He doesn't know anything about it. He has no information. He's been telling us for two sessions that this dude is the only dude we can go to for the information, and then there's no information. Strangely, I don't have any. Why don't I have any? What's that yellow stuff called? I can't think what the yellow stuff's called. Let me go see if I can find some of this. I know what chrysanthemum is. That's one of the things I'm about to do. Look, dude, I know you're hungry, but I'm busy. Okay. What's this stuff called? All I can think is chamomile, and that is not what I want. Goldenrod. There we go. Probably guess I should grab some of this, too. And, so we, he doesn't know anything, and we can't use the map to get to where we're going, and so we have to go talk to these other people. So then we have to go back and talk to the first woman who said she didn't have any information. She gives us contacts to talk to, and so then everything he tells us is this place called Red Larch, because we're moving into a new campaign book, and Red Larch is the first town. And I guess. I didn't really look that closely at the new campaign book. I only looked at the last one because he kept accusing me of looking at it, and I want to know why he was so worried that we were looking at it, and then I learned it's because he's a horrible cheat. And so... yeah, so we finally get out of town. And he wants us... Oh, no. He wants us to stop and get supplies. And so then while we're getting supplies, I ask him how many days it's going to be, because I want to know how many supplies I need. How much food do I need to make it to the next town? I don't know if it's like a week, 10 days, what? You know, I've got 7 days worth of food on my character. Of travel food, not, you know, regular food. And so he finally figures out that it's like 2 days away by horse, and 4 days on foot. And like, okay, well then maybe we should look for horses. He's like, I don't think they'll have horses here. And we're like, well, this is a fairly large town with multiple buildings and farms, and there were bandits here that we killed off, and you know, there's the miners' exchange and this other place that you know, is a fairly well connected. I'm like, there's got to be some horses here. Well, there probably aren't going to be riding horses. And so he makes us go through all these hoops to get riding horses. And then, because he's angry at how much money we have, I feel, he charges us almost double the price on the horses because they're, quote, rare. And they're rare horses that don't go as fast as a riding horse is supposed to. Like, whatever. And so we try to negotiate with the farmer. The farmer refuses to negotiate downward, basically. Took 5 gold off of his price. 5 gold. Not each. 5 gold total for 2 horses. And so, oh man, you know what? I will never... I'm just going to cancel that so I can get these seeds done. And, I know I didn't actually need that many, but... Psst. Why didn't that change to... Oh, because I gotta click the recipe button, because you're dumb. That's why. So, okay, so I planted coffee, potatoes, and corn. That's what I've got so far. And so what I want to do is I want to get goldenrod and chrysanthemum in here. I need to make some torches, man. It's getting dark up here. I guess I have my helmet, but... And, so then, after we deal with the first farmer, while they're negotiating with the second farmer, who lives 6 houses away, I'm like, I'm gonna take my thief back over, and I want to see if he's home, or I want to see where he's at. And so I stealth really high. She has a really high stealth, and which also irritates him. Nobody's ever home when I go to use my stealth. Well, like I said, I can't use my thief to do anything because the people I need are never there. And so not only is he not there, but he is so quick that he has run away from wherever and is now totally not anywhere in town I can find him, because my plan was to pickpocket him and take his money. And so since he wasn't there, I didn't do it. And then he's like, well, what were you going to do if you found this guy? I'm like, well, I was just going to pickpocket him and get our gold back. And he's like, oh, yeah, I guess you could probably do that. Yeah, I could do that. That's I'm a thief. That's what we do. I could try anyways. And, but I can't because the guys are never there. So then we leave town. And there's a banshee that we had met in the first campaign that we did. And so he apparently wanted us to go back and have interaction with her again, only we had dreams that evil was in the area, and so we had to deal with the evil that was in the area. Where is the seeds? Right there. And so we go to the Banshee's place, and she lives in a small house. Once again, small. And so he's like... so I sneak my thief up, because that's what she does. She's sneaky. And he's like, you don't see anything in the house. I'm like, okay. Because I guess the Banshee was invisible when I looked. And so our other guy, he decided he was just going to knock the door open, and so that's what he did. He knocked the door open, and 1, 2, 3. Okay. was there, right? Yep. And so then, and here we go with nothing is ever where he says it is. The Banshee makes us roll for horrifying visage, which only happens if you can see her. And then makes us roll for her Banshee Scream, which is the thing I was going to look up, because I thought there was a limit on the distance for a Banshee Scream, but I don't remember what it is. And so we probably were within the Banshee Scream, but who knows. He also said we were 30 feet from the door, and then when he started the map, he put us 20 feet from the door, so that we would be within range of what I believe to be is a 30-foot Banshee Scream. And I'm pretty sure that's what went down. And, alright, I am going to... Is that all the animal fat I have? That's crazy. Huh. So, yeah, so he has us roll against those two things, and one of us gets, or two of us get frightened from the horrifying visage. Nobody goes down to the Banshee Whale, which basically straight up knocks you unconscious, which is a bad state to be in. And, oh no, that makes candles. Dang it, I did that before. I want to make torches. And torches are made with the animal fat. Dang it, I did this last time too. I turned it into tallow, but tallow isn't what I need. I need actual animal fat. Oh, yeah. No torches for me. And so, anyways, I do have all this water, though, and I could probably maybe do something with these corn and potatoes to make some food to eat right now. I would like some baked potatoes and some corn on the cob. Ooh, look at you, corn. Getting all tall. How much wood do I have left? None. Isn't that a little bizarre? I had enough wood exactly to fill this out? That's a little bizarre. I hear you, guy. Where are you? Are you mad at my forge? So anyways, let me finish my story and then we'll probably call it a day. Yeah, he's got the Banshee there, and he does all that stuff, which requires line of sight, and then has us roll for combat, to start combat. And so when you roll to start combat, you roll your initiatives and stuff. And initiative is the turn order you're going to take for the combat. And so the Banshee rolls low. And so when the combat starts, he then suddenly tells us, oh, the Banshee isn't on the ground. The Banshee is actually 20 feet in the air inside her house. And so I'm like, the Banshee is 20 feet in the air in a small house? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, 20 feet is like 2 stories up, right? And he's like, what? I'm like, yeah, that's like 2 stories in the air. And he's like, oh, well then she's 10 feet up. I'm like, okay, so the Banshee who's 10 feet in the air was in our line of sight to give us frightening presence, or whatever, horrifying visage. And he's like, well, I'm like, I'm pretty sure I can't see through a 6 or 7 foot tall door 10 feet in the air directly behind the door. So what is it? Is she in melee range or not? He's like, okay, well then take off the horrifying visage. I screwed that up. I'm like, no, you just cheated by moving your character once combat started again. And so that guy just dropped dead? Is that what happened? I don't understand what happened here. Like, there was a guy making noise, and I was being hunted, and now I'm not. And so, okay, I'm gonna drop down here, then, and where did I see that body? There you are. Nope, he doesn't have anything. Weird. It's weird to me that I heard a zombie, and now the zombie is gone. So, then, we get in position, and normally I run my guys directly to the front of the line. And I thought, you know what, this time I'm going to leave my guys at the back of the line. And because when he ended his turn, he went first. His character, not the bad guys, his character went first. He ran forward, he attacked, and then he moved backwards, which he always does. Only he didn't move back as far as we were. And so my one character was already up there, and so she attacked, and then she moved back behind everybody else. And then the other guy, he moved forward, and he attacked, but he wasn't farther forward than the DM's character. And then I moved my character forward, but I put it next to the other guy's character, not the DM's character. And so we were like, two of us were together. One of them was back here, and then his character was standing over here. And would you believe, shockingly, I was so shocked. I was so shocked that the guy who we play with sent me a message that said, and now the monster moves past him to get to us. And it did. It came right past him to attack the rest of us. We finished that combat, and then after that one, he had us attacked by wolves, and he says there are I'm out of clay. Oh man. He says there are 3 dire wolves and 5 regular wolves. And I'm like, okay. And then he starts putting wolves down. He's like, you know, here's the wolves. And he puts 5 dire wolves and like 7 or 8 wolves on the board. I'm like, okay, so now we got a description, and then you changed it after the description, which is pretty common for him. It's not how you're supposed to do it, but it's, you know, because if 98% of the game is described to you, you can't play if you don't know what's actually going on. And so that's what irritates me so much about him just changing things. And so he puts them in 2 rows. And so the one guy's got a spell that's like a lightning bolt spell, and he uses it to fire a lightning bolt along the row of dire wolves. And so then he's also got an ability where he can cast a second spell the same turn. And so the DM is like, oh, I made a stupid mistake. I shouldn't have lined those guys up. I should have thought about your lightning bolt spell. Well, I've got him in line now. And so after he rolls to cast lightning, or while he's rolling to see how much damage he does from the lightning bolt, the DM then rearranges the rest of the wolves so that they're not in a straight line, so they can't get lightning bolt the same way. After combat had started, after they had been placed on the map, after other people had taken their turns, he rearranges the wolves so that they can't be hit by... and then all the wolves attacked everybody but his character. Out of the 8 13. Out of the 14 things we were attacked by over multiple turns, his character only got attacked once the entire night. And it was by a character that was almost dead. And, yeah, drives me crazy. Alright, with that, I'm going to call it. So click like if you like, subscribe to catch the next one. I will talk to you later.